Men who are addicted to social media and the internet are twice as likely to be addicted to porn. Why? Porn and social media addiction have the same reward pathways in the brain. When you watch porn and when you are addicted to social media, your brain functions pretty much the same way, not at the same extent because porn releases more dopamine than social media does. But you have the same equivalent reward pathway. When you are scrolling, why do you think you can spend 3 hours, 4 hours scrolling without realizing you are still scrolling? You wanted just to be on Instagram for a minute, for 5 minutes, for 15 minutes, and you ended up being there for 4 hours in a row. Your brain gets addicted to the dopamine hits when you scroll. And I'm not even talking about doom scrolling. I'm just talking about scrolling, whether it's good content or bad content, negative content or wholesome content or funny content, whatever the case might be. When you are scrolling, there's novelty, the same as porn. Every time you scroll up, or is it down? Whatever. When you scroll, every time you scroll, there's a dopamine hit. It's small, but it's still there. There's a dopamine hit. And that is the crazy part, even if you don't like what you're watching, your thinks the next clip will be better. So you are seeking novelty, even if you don't like what you're watching, because your brain anticipates the next clip. And the anticipation is the cue. And that's where the dopamine start releasing. And when you scroll up, you get another clip, novelty, more dopamine. It is the same way the gambler's brain works. Because when you go to a casino, when you gamble, it's not so much about the result. It is more about the anticipation. And it could be bad or worse, but you're hoping that you will get a bad result. You're hoping that you'll get a good result, of course. But the anticipation, the release of dopamine is even higher during the anticipation, which is the cue before you start gambling. The same goes for Instagram, for TikTok, the novelty. The same goes for porn, except that porn, the release is higher because when you are on social media, when you are scrolling, the dopamine release is moderate. And that's why you can find yourself watching porn for a couple of hours in a row or edge, which is even worse than just masturbating. So you have to understand that the novelty seeking in porn and social media is pretty much the same. They both desensitize your dopamine receptors, the D2 dopamine receptor. Why are they desensitized? Because they get an overload of dopamine. The brain was not wired to release that much dopamine. The brain would downregulate the dopamine receptor or move them all together. So you have less dopamine receptor and less efficient dopamine receptor, which means that the dopamine will not be accepted by those receptors as well as they did if you were not releasing that much dopamine through social media or through porn, which means that your baseline will go lower. And when you consume porn or consume social media, even though your baseline is already quite low, you will go even lower than this baseline, especially when you watch porn. The activities of your life will be dull, will not feel as good as when you are not consuming social media and or porn. You have anxiety, you have depression, you have apathy and complacency. You will have all those negative emotions, and those negative emotions will make you want to be more on social media, be more on porn website, because your answers to pain, to this anxiety, to this depression will be to actually consume more of what is causing you that pain to begin with. So it's a vicious cycle. So that is why social media is just almost like a gateway to porn. And it makes so much sense for men who are addicted to social media to actually be addicted to porn as well, because it's the same thing. It's horrible when you think about it. And not only that, nowadays with smartphone, you can access both the porn and social media at the same time. I think you can, because I know, you open a window and the small window stays at the bottom, something like that. So you could actually be scrolling and jerking off at the same time. I mean, you will need to find a way to scroll because your hands would be busy. What I'm trying to say, all jokes aside, it is that There's a reason why social media internet addiction is one of the highest, if not the highest in the world right now. And people don't talk about it as much. But you have to understand that because he had the same reward pathway as porn, he will bring you the same level of anxiety, the same level of depression, porn more faster and more intensely, I would say, because the release of dopamine is much higher when you watch porn than it is when you on social media. But you have to understand that it is a waste of potential. That's all I want to say. Beware of your consumption. Porn, you have to give up forever. Social media is not easy because some people use it to stay in touch with their friend, to work like myself, but you have to reduce your consumption tremendously. If you work with Instagram, you don't need to be on Instagram unless you are posting or unless you are looking at what your competition is doing to find ideas and inspiration. But you definitely don't need to be on social media more than less than an hour a day, to be honest. Anyway, that's all I have to say for today. I'm Sebastian, your addiction recovery coach. Recovery means also social media addiction, but more importantly, quitting porn. And I'm here to help those of you who truly want to desexualize them. Links in the description box below. Thank you so much, and I'll see you very soon.